Harbor Freight has evolved from offering mostly cheap power tools to the point where they now are featuring 3 distinct lines of power tools. There are high-end Hercules, mid-range Bauer, and the low-end Warrior. As a woodworker with 50 years of experience, I was curious about the difference between these lines, so I did what anyone would do. I bought a cordless drill from every line so I could compare them and see what sets them apart. So let's take a look at the difference between these power tool lines. Of course, the proof of any tool is in the using, right? So I've got an old 4x4 fence post here, and we're just going to start off by drilling a few holes. I'm using a 3/8 inch drill bit since that's the biggest size this drill can handle. All right, that actually wasn't all that bad. It was not impressive, but it wasn't bad. So now we're going to go up to the Bauer. So this has got considerably more torque or horsepower. So I'd say I took close to the same amount of time. I didn't actually time it there. I did time it previously and it was quicker, but you know, you get some variances in the density of the wood as well. But it was much smoother going in. And now we'll go to the Hercules, the heavy duty one. Okay, that was considerably faster, okay? So we can see an obvious difference there. And adding to that assumption is if we went to bigger drill bits, we'd probably see even more of a difference in how well they drill into the wood. But there is definitely a difference in how well they'll drill even a 3/8 inch hole. My favorite test for cordless drills is using hole saws. And the reason for that is there's no other type of bit that you can put in a cordless drill that's going to require as much from that drill, specifically as much power from the drill. The hole saw requires more, partially because, you know, they get pretty big, but also because the amount of cutting points that are in contact with the wood that you're cutting all at the same time. You can have a pretty good sized Forstner bit, but there's really only 2 cutting points. The same size hole saw might have 12, 15, 20, depending on the design of the saw. So we're going to run these through some hole saws. I've got hole saws here from 1.5 inches to 4 inches in 1/2 inch increments, okay? And we're going to start out with our low inch drill, the Warrior, and we're just going to see how these do in cutting this old fence post. I'm using the old fence post partially because I've got it, but it's pressure treated, it's weathered, it's painted, it's a pretty hard piece of wood. So we're starting with 1.5 inches here with our Warrior. I'm gonna put pressure on it because I'm trying to really see how much effort it's gonna take and how much it can handle. So here we go. Okay, that did pretty good with the 1.5 inches. So now let's step up to the 2 inch. Now you really got to be careful using hole saws with a drill of any sort, a handheld drill, because the torque can really play a number on you. And if your wrist is bent too much, you might end up with an injury. So here we go with the 2 inch. Well, as you can see, we bogged down there. I was able to get it going again, but 2 inches is pretty much the limit. And you're probably gonna have to work at it a little bit to get 2 inches with this drill. Okay, so let's step it up. Let's go from here up to the Bauer. So we've used our lowest cost drill. Now we're going to something that I consider a pretty decent consumer grade drill, okay? Again, we're gonna go with the 2 inch. And of course that handles that well. And one thing I really noticed here is that it was cutting a lot faster, okay? It didn't bog down at all from the size of the drill. So let's step it up to our 2.5. Okay, as you can see, we bogged down to 2.5 inches. I was able to get it going again, and it cut really well once I got it going again. I'm going to go ahead and try the 3-inch, although I really don't think it can handle it. No, it can't do the 3-inch. Okay, so 2.5 inch, if we work at it a bit, is the biggest we can get out of the Bauer. Now we're going to step up to the Hercules. This is the heavy duty one. Remember, it's got a lot more torque, or at least it should have a lot more torque, right? And I'm glad it's got this handle because of that torque. So here we go. All right, it had absolutely no problem at 3 inches. And again, it appears that the drill was not only cutting better, but cutting faster as well. Okay, this is 3.5 inches, which is actually the width of our post here. So this is the really kind of the limit. Yeah, it looks like the limit. That's the most we can do, 3.5. And again, we got to work at it a little bit. So you can see that there's a real definitive difference between the amount of torque, the amount of power these drills have, and what that means you can do with it. Now, of course, that depends on if you're going to be doing that heavy-duty stuff, but if you are, you definitely want to up your game. The first thing that I noticed right out of the boxes is that there's considerable difference between these tools, even though they all came from the same company, and they're all cordless drill drivers. And they may as well be from 3 totally different companies for what I see just looking at them, in the way they're designed, the fit and finish, how rugged they are, and how powerful they are. Now, the Hercules line is designed to be a professional line. It's supposed to compete on the level with, say, Milwaukee and DeWalt, 2 of the most popular professional lines of tools. The Bauer line is intended to be a consumer line, say along the lines of something like Ryobi. Now, I know a lot of people hate Ryobi as well, but Ryobi makes good tools, okay? And then the Warrior is, there's no other way to put it, it's a cheap line, okay? You can tell by the prices. This was $100, this one was right at 50, I think 55, and this one was 25. Huge difference in prices, but there's clear reason why there's such a huge difference in these prices. Let's just talk a little bit about the basic difference as far as specifications, okay? These two are a 1/2-inch chuck, this one's got a 3/8-inch chuck. Now, 1/2-inch chuck has been the standard for cordless drills for a long time, unless you're talking real low-end stuff. So what does that tell you, okay? The motor in the Hercules one is a brushless motor. It's the only one that's stated as being a brushless motor. Neither of these are, so I'd have to assume that they have brushes. This one is also stated that it has metal gears. It says right in their advertising, whereas these two don't say, so I would have to assume that they have plastic gears. That makes a huge difference as far as the longevity of it, okay? Both of these have a 2-speed transmission, so you can get a bigger speed range. This one does not. So what that boils down to is we got a huge difference in speed. This one will go up to 2,000 RPM, totally variable. This one will go up to about 1,700 RPM, and this one will only go up to 900 RPM. Obviously, if you're a professional, speed is important because that's going to determine how quick you get your work done and how much work you can get done. Probably the biggest determining factor in the difference between these 3 lines of power tools is how much torque they have. Torque's a big thing in power tools, regardless of what kind of tool we're talking about, because it's going to tell us how much work it can do. Not how long it can work, but how tough a material, how big a material it can work with or get through, okay? So when it comes to these drills, the Hercules has 1,200 inch-pounds of torque. That's 100 foot-pounds of torque. All right, what does that mean? Well, my daily drill here is a Milwaukee cordless drill, and it's their lowest end 18-volt cordless drill. Now, they have a lower end one that's 12-volt, but as far as their main line of tools, their 18-volt tools, it's the lowest. And it has 450 inch-pounds of torque. This has got 2.5 times that, okay? Putting it another way, the wheels on your car are probably only held on with 50 or 60 pounds of torque, foot-pounds of torque. And we've got 100 foot-pounds of torque here. So that's our high-end one. Our midline is got 450 inch-pounds of torque. So it's a little shy of where my Milwaukee is, but that's still pretty good. And then the low-end one here, the Warrior, has got 199 inch-pounds of torque. So obviously this is not going to give you the kind of performance that either of these would, but if all you're going to do, if you're the guy that's just, doing some DIY home repair, hanging a picture, putting a door hinge, replacing a door hinge, this is adequate, okay? If you're doing a lot of woodworking projects, building things, it probably isn't adequate. But then again, at the same time, you may not need to go as far as the professional grade Hercules. You'd probably be better off with the Bauer. Battery, now, this is the other biggie as far as I'm concerned, okay? Battery in this one is, they're all lithium ion batteries, okay? This has got a 2 amp hour, 20 volt battery, okay? And comes with a fast charger. And they specifically state it as being a fast charger. The Bauer comes with a 1.5 amp hour, so you've got 25% less capacity battery, and it has a charger, a plug-in charger, but it's not listed as being a fast charger. And then the Warrior has a little plug-in charger. They've saved some money by not having to make the case for the battery to slide into. This has a 1.3 amp hour battery, and it's a slow charger. They say it takes 3 to 5 hours to charge. So that's a big difference if you're doing a lot of work. If you're in the middle of a project with this one and your battery goes dead on you, and any of us who've used lithium ion battery tools knows that when the battery quits, it quits. It's not like the old nickel cadmiums where you just slow down, that's it. So you're gonna have to plug that in for 3 to 5 hours before you can use it again. That's a big difference, all right? That's a big disadvantage for anyone that does a fair amount of use of their drill. They all have an LED work light, and for convenience, and both of these come with a belt clip. So there's the basic specifications on the 3 tools. Again, we can clearly see this is designed to be a professional grade tool or a high grade tool. This is a consumer, a good consumer tool, I'd have to say. And this one is a low end tool for those people that rarely need one. One of the questions a lot of people have about Harbor Freight tools is, how could they make good tools and sell them so much cheaper? And it's a valid question. And the answer is in a term that's used in manufacturing called vertical integration. See, Harbor Freight designs their own tools, they manufacture their own tools, they distribute their own tools, and they sell their own tools. You don't have middlemen in the process. Now, if you go to any other brand, say a Milwaukee or a DeWalt or Makita, they design their tools, and they have it, then they manufacture in their factory or somebody that's contracted to make it for them. So that part's the same, but from there to the retail store, everything else is different because it goes from there to one of their warehouses, from that warehouse to a distribution center, a middleman in other words, and from there to a retail store. In each of those steps, we see the price of the tool going up. And so what Harbor Freight has done is eliminate the middleman. They are their own middleman. So from the warehouse, maybe they've got their own distribution centers they send it to, but it's theirs. They don't have to pay somebody else's profit margin. So that's why this tool at $100 can compete with a professional grade drill that's say $170, $180, $200. That's where the difference comes in. So as you can see, the difference between these 3 lines of tools is very different. Hercules is definitely a professional grade tool. It's built to be rugged, to last, to have power, and to be able to use for years. Bauer is clearly a consumer brand for the do-it-yourselfer or the hobbyist who's going to be using it on a regular basis. And Warrior, well, that's for the guy that hardly ever uses it. Like if you've got, say, a brother-in-law that has a hard time figuring which end of the drill to hold, and he needs a drill to occasionally hang a picture or something, that's probably a good tool for him.